This is episode number 43 of the Fine Dining Podcast. Welcome to Sarasota, Florida.
This is Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast, helping foodies discover new restaurants and new friends. Here's your host, the founder of Mystery Meat, Seth Ressler.
Hello and welcome to the Fine Dining Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Seth Ressler, and this is the podcast for foodies who love travel and travelers who love food. Each week, we go to a different city, and we find out what's happening in the culinary scene. This week, we are going down to Florida, Sarasota, Florida to be exact, and we are talking to Laura Raymond, who runs the Destination Cuisine website, which is all about food and travel, right, Laura?
Absolutely. This is my game.
All right, so we're going to find out a little bit about Destination Cuisine, and then we're going to talk about the culinary scene in Sarasota, and we're going to get a restaurant recommendation from you, and finally, we are going to play a game called Out of the Frying Pan. I hope you're ready for that.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
All right, well, let's talk about you and Destination Cuisine. Tell me exactly what this website is.
Well, the concept started about 3 years ago, where one day I Googled the words food and travel, and not one single individual site came up. Lots of food sites came up, lots of travel sites, but not food and travel. So I really saw this as an opportunity to put together a website that would help people plan the culinary aspects during their travel plans.
And this is amazing to me because this is something that I've discovered as I've hosted this podcast over the last 6 months and talked to foodies all over the country. And now we're launching the Taste Trekkers Food Tourism Conference. But you're right, this is something that a lot of people do. In fact, I read recently that this is like a $150 billion industry by some estimates, food and travel together.
Absolutely. And there are actually just tons of tourism boards that now have a separate culinary tourism aspect of their tourism board.
Right, because they are now realizing that food is a way to get people to come to their city.
Exactly.
And it's sort of strange because this is sort of something that everybody's been doing, but there hasn't been a name to it and there hasn't been an organized effort.
Absolutely, right.
So tell me why culinary tourism or food tourism you think is emerging now.
More than anything, I think travelers are starting to get a little frustrated. Quite honestly, when they go to a certain area, they want to eat at great restaurants. Maybe they want to take cooking classes. Maybe they want to, get totally immersed into the food culture in that area. And there really is not one, individual site to find the aspects of that part of their travel. They can find hotels. They can find, airline tickets, but, finding that aspect of it, beyond just restaurants, and that's on review sites, really doesn't exist.
It's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a travel agent the other day, and we were talking about this aspect of it, and she was telling me that, if you want to go to a place and you want the flight, you want the hotel, all the things that you're talking about, yes, she can handle it. But if you want to know what restaurants to go to, that's not really what travel agents do.
Right. You
have to go to something like Yelp, and Yelp is a fantastic site if you know what you want.
Sure.
But if you're just going to a city and I'm going to Sarasota, where should I go, Yelp? And Yelp will come back with like 1,000 answers, and it's tough to wade through. So we're going to talk about the city of Sarasota. Before we do, I know you've got a trivia question for me.
Yes, I do. I was wondering if you knew what seafood delicacy is only available for 8 months of the year.
There in Sarasota, you mean?
In Florida in general.
Okay.
But only for 8 months. And it's usually pretty scarce. And it's usually pretty expensive.
Now, I know, I know there are things like from Alaska, there's the Copper River salmon, which actually I think had a smaller window. And you could only get it when I was living in Seattle. And that was fantastic. So there's a seafood delicacy that you can only get 8 months of the year, which is most of the year. I mean, why does that drive the price up? That is most of the year.
It is, but without giving it away, sometimes the demand is much greater than the supply. For instance, this year we had a real problem with, believe it or not, octopus.
Okay.
Who were kind of devouring this little delicacy.
So humans like it and octopus like it?
Apparently so.
Is it octopi? What's the plural of octopus?
I always wondered that.
So I'm going to think about that for a little bit. We're going to come back to that question. Let's talk about Sarasota. Now, for people who don't know, where exactly in Florida is it?
It's on the western side on the Gulf of Mexico, and we are 1 hour south of Tampa. It's a very cultural, artsy theaters, and the Ringling family settled here back in 1910.
From the circus?
Absolutely, yes. And as a matter of fact, they really established what became Sarasota and what has made it famous today and what continues to make it famous.
So are there a lot of like bearded ladies walking around, or?
There are not. However, we do have a very famous tightrope walker.
Really?
Nick Walenda makes his home here. And if you follow the circus scene at all, he's actually the seventh generation of the Flying Walendas that you probably heard of. His family's been in the circus business for over 200 years, and he has a very famous tightrope walk coming up over the Grand Canyon. He did Niagara Falls last year.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's really big news for us here, and because of the upcoming Grand Canyon walk, he actually will be practicing on a 1,200-foot high wire that is only about 10 minutes north of where I live, so I cannot wait till he starts to practice. And
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, there's a German movie crew coming over to film it, and it's they actually will be televising that on the Discovery Channel.
I was actually going to ask you, Sarasota, is it old people or is it MTV Spring Breakers? Turns out it's circus folks, so.
It's a little bit of all of that, but we do have a very seasonal time down here, which is basically Thanksgiving through Easter. And a lot of snowbirds do come down, and it is harder to get into the restaurants. So we actually have an event that celebrates, the seasonal people exiting, and the locals kind of get their restaurants back. And but we love in season because there are no taxes down here, and they make it really easy for us to live. So we do love our tourists as well as everything else that we've got here year round.
So tourism does really drive this town, though.
Huge, yes. Absolutely.
And is the weather year-round? I mean, obviously in the winter it's much nicer than it is up, north, but in the summer, does it get oppressively hot?
You would think so. I'm from Connecticut, and it took me a year to, for my body to adjust, but when it gets down to 70 degrees now, I'm freezing. So I would say that there are probably only 4 months of the year that you would probably call it oppressively hot. We just say, you do the opposite of what the Northerners do in the winter. You just, go into the AC during those months. It's a very healthy, active, very casual and laid back kind of lifestyle here. So you see a lot of people running, walking, biking is huge here. Yeah, and we were actually just named one of the top 10 walking cities in Florida from About.com.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations.
So thanks. It's a beautiful area.
So let's say I'm coming in, let's say I'm a snowbird. I'm coming down to Sarasota for the winter. Tell me about some of the different neighborhoods that I could walk to explore if I'm a foodie.
Probably first and foremost would be the downtown or Main Street area, because you've got everything from, beautiful dining on the water to tiki bars to, I think there are probably, I would say at least 250 restaurants within just the several block area, with everything from, very casual coffee houses to, very upscale, seafood restaurants. So, and everything in between. Peruvian food is big here, obviously seafood.
Talk to me a little bit about the ethnic makeup of the city and how that informs the cuisine or influences the cuisine.
It's very multicultural here. I would find it hard to pick one cuisine that is very prominent here, just because I think what most chefs have done is taken their cultural background, whether it's Peruvian, Italian, etc., and then they incorporate the fresh fish or delicacies that we have here, and then put their spin on it. And that's what makes this such a cool place, is whether it's, an organic, farm to table, or, wine tasting, kind of, very upscale, dressy, Frank Sinatra piano kind of places. They're all within just, literally a few blocks of each other. So that's what makes the Main Street area a very cool area to, to hit.
Now, you mentioned Peruvian. Do you see a lot of Cuban? Do you see a lot of Mexican?
I think that there's a definite, Latino influence here. I think it started obviously down in Miami, and it's kind of filtered throughout the rest of Florida, including Sarasota. Peruvian is huge here, some Cuban, but a lot of chefs have taken kind of, again, American cuisine and just put whatever their cultural twist on it is, yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about Peruvian. I mean, for people who are not familiar with Peruvian food, what are some popular Peruvian dishes that you see there?
Oh, ceviche is definitely one of the more popular items. The, sea bass, a lot of fish, a lot of pork seems to be really big. Obviously cilantro and the sauces that are flavored with the very fresh herbs like cilantros and wines, and but not heavy sauces, very light sauces. And I think that's what makes it such a popular cuisine, is that you can have a really full meal, but it's not heavy.
All right, so downtown is one of the places to go. Any other neighborhoods worth exploring?
I would say St. Armand Circle is a definite destination. It's made up of, shops and bakeries and homemade ice cream. And there's everything from you almost don't even have to, have sandals on your feet, kind of a place where you can kick back and come right off the beach, to, the nice upscale, nice piano music outside, lots of cafes, lots of vibe. It literally is in like a circular area of what's called St. Armand Circle. So it's really a destination. It's not a place you just go to for dinner. You go there, you walk around, you have a drink, you make a day of it. And because it's literally one block off of Lido Beach, we have several keys here. We have Siesta Key, Lido Key, Longboat Key, and that actually kind of splits Lido Key and Longboat Key. So we get fed from both of those keys, as well as the main, downtown area of Sarasota. So it's not only convenient, it's great to even go for a walk on the beach, right after dinner.
Talk to me about some of the chefs down there. I mean, are there any chefs that we should be keeping our eye on?
Paul Madison is always, kind of front and center. He has several places in town, Madison City Grill, which always is the hub of the Main Street area. It's mainly outdoors, and they have, the tiki torches going, and there's music starting a lot of times at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's really just a great vibe place, and the food is just phenomenal. My favorite salad there is they do a Greek salad with, of course, medium rare lamb chops, and it's just absolutely exquisite.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and everything is always cooked to perfection. The service is impeccable, and it's literally the kind of place where you go there once, they ask your name, and the next time you go there, they know your name.
Oh, I like that kind of place.
The waitstaff doesn't turn over, and it's just a really fun place to go.
All right, so that's Paul Madison.
And then we've got Derek Barnes, and he's, of course, always in the limelight with, what he's doing in the community. He does a lot of, the fundraisers, and again, kind of that fun, eclectic twist on American cuisine. He's definitely one of the staples of, the area.
Talk to me about foodie events down there. Are there any great events that happen that we should check out?
Oh, absolutely. In January, there is the Forks and Corks, typically around the last weekend of January, and it's about $85 a person. And typically there's about 1,500 to 2,000 people, and it sells out. The tickets sell out usually within a week. It's so popular. People come from all over the U.S. for it. Typically over 100 winemakers come from all over the world: Italy, France, Spain, South Africa, New Zealand, California, of course. And the beauty is these are typically boutique wines. So they are not wines that are readily available, and they now actually, because that portion of the Corks and Forks has become so popular, you can just pick up your wine on the way out. And then, of course, they usually have over 60 of the restaurants participating with, their finest dishes that are being served. It's held at the John and Mabel Ringling Museum, which overlooks, they actually have a statue of David, and then you're overlooking this beautiful, rose courtyard with a statue of David. It sits on Sarasota Bay, and it's just an absolutely phenomenal time.
That's Forks and Corks?
Forks and Corks. Mm-hmm.
All right. What else you got going on down there?
Well, I just actually came off of doing some judging for the Suncoast Barbecue and Bluegrass Bash. This year they had record numbers of not only participants for the barbecue, but also for attendees. They had over 7,000 people attending, and they had everything from, the brisket, chicken, ribs, overall barbecue. And actually, these guys go on to participate in Las Vegas at the Nationals. And these are all sanctioned by Jack Daniels, and it's a pretty serious barbecue event.
And you were judging?
I was judging. I helped to judge the Cassie, and they had 2 chili contests. They had the open chili contest, which was interesting, to say the least. And then they had the CASI, which is the Chili Appreciation Society.
Wait, back up. What is an open chili contest?
An open category means that anything goes. So we had everything from a seafood chowder, again, because it's open and there are no rules. And the interesting part of that was we got everything, I think. So you had everything from hot dogs and beans, basically, to, a seafood chowder. It was kind of interesting to help judge that, because it is open, and many of those chilies, if you want to call them that even, were absolutely outstanding.
What was your favorite? Did you have the one that you particularly liked?
Actually, the seafood won. Yeah, and it was done by an Irish barbecue team, so that was kind of interesting.
An Irish barbecue team made a seafood chili.
Yes.
And that won. All right. Sarasota's turning out to be a lot more interesting than I thought.
There's always something going on here, food-wise. There are more Zagat-rated restaurants within the downtown area than there are anywhere in the entire state of Florida. And when you think about Sarasota with, roughly about 400,000 people versus a Miami or Orlando, and the concentration of restaurants that they have there, I think that really speaks to the level of cuisine that we have here.
So this town's a real foodie destination then?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to come back and we're going to have you pick one of your favorite restaurants in Sarasota. Tell us exactly where to go. We're also going to get the answer to your trivia question. We're going to find out what seafood delicacy is available there 8 months out of the year, coming up in just a second.
Hi, you've reached Seth Ressler, host of Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast. I can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message.
Hi Seth, this is Dave Dadakian from EatDrinkRI.com. Thanks very much for asking about the Drink Rhode Island Festival. It went extremely well. Couldn't have been happier with how it went, and we're looking forward to do it again next year. It went so well. But before that, I'm looking forward to Taste Trekkers in Providence in September. I can't wait to talk to you about that, and really look forward to that event. So thanks again for asking about our festival, and talk to you soon.
That there is a voicemail of Dave Dadakian of Eat Drink RI, a fantastic food blog about everything Rhode Island, and he just wrapped up the very first Eat Drink RI festival. I heard fantastic things from everybody back in Rhode Island who was at it and was involved with it. Sounded like it was absolutely fantastic, and they're going to do it again next year. Speaking of fantastic food events happening in Rhode Island, this September 20th, 21st, 22nd in Providence, Rhode Island, it is Taste Trekkers, the nation's first food tourism conference. Tickets went on sale today, so you can now get your tickets. Everything from the cocktail reception happening Friday night, then we're doing these group mystery meat dinners, and then the next day, Matt Jennings is going to give the keynote address. We've got a number of great speakers leading sessions. In fact, we just announced a bunch of new speakers. You can see who they are over at tastetrekkers.com. Panel discussion. There's going to be a water fire that night. If you've never seen Waterfire in Providence, you need to check this out. It's the signature cultural event that this city does. They light these huge torches down the middle of the river on fire, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. Going to be a great night. And then finally Sunday morning we've got some walking culinary tours, and we've got the food truck brunch. So the entire Taste Trekkers event is going to be fantastic. If you love to travel and you love food, come check this out. Go to tastetrekkers.com and you can find all the info and the link to get tickets as well. Hope to see you there.
We are talking to Laura Raymond of DestinationCuisine.com, and we're talking to you about the culinary scene in Sarasota. Now, you actually had a trivia question for me. Tell me what it was one more time.
What seafood delicacy is only available for 8 months of the year?
What seafood delicacy is only available 8 months of the year? And you said it was influenced by the octopi this year.
Yes.
It's got to be something small. Is it fish or is it something else?
It has a hard shell.
It has a hard shell. I want to say it's some type of crab.
Ah, yes. You're getting warm.
I'm going to guess soft shell crab.
Ah, very close. It's stone crab.
Stone crab. All right, so tell me what a stone crab is exactly.
Okay, well, stone crab is, I guess it looks similar to like the Maryland, blue crabs, but you really just eat the claw. And you only eat one of the claws, because when they harvest them, they can only break one claw off and they throw the crab back in.
And it grows back, and that doesn't deplete the population.
Right. So the problem we had this year is that the octopus or octopi were getting into the stone crab traps and basically eating the entire crab.
Oh, wow.
Or at least that's one version of what we've heard.
That's what the BP oil people are telling you, right?
That's right.
So why is it only available 8 months out of the year? Is it a natural thing, or is that like a law that's passed?
Well, it is a law, and you can't harvest them and it's actually available October 15th through May 15th. So we are coming up on the end of it here very shortly. Yeah,
Just happens to coincide with tourist season.
I wasn't going to say that.
I think we know what the crab lobby's up to out down there. So it is illegal to harvest them during the summer then?
Absolutely, yeah, and it gives the crabs time to grow the claw back. But typically they are served cold. I would say 80% of where they're served cold with a really nice Dijon mustard type of sauce for dipping. I personally like them hot just because that's how I like my crab. But so you really can get them either way.
And is this a meal or an appetizer usually?
It can be both, actually. And one of my favorite places for it is actually called Moore's Stone Crab, which is great because you can go by boat, you pull up after a day, you have... And actually at the beginning of the season, they will have all you can eat crab for $40, which is pretty unbelievable. And a lot of places down here, because it is a delicacy, you'll get 3 small claws for $40. So Moore's is one of my favorite places to get the stone crab.
Well, let's talk about another one of your favorite places. I asked you to make a restaurant recommendation. If we're a foodie coming into Sarasota, I said, where should we go eat? What did you say?
Well, I have a very new favorite Italian restaurant called The Usual Place. It is very authentic. I wish I could live in Italy. I would if I could, but this really has taken me back to Italy and probably as close as I can get.
Now that's interesting because I don't think of Italian food when I think of Florida.
Again, because we're very multicultural down here, we really do have it all. And we have a number of Italian restaurants, but I really have to put this one at the top as one of my absolute favorite Italian restaurants.
And who's the chef behind this place?
The owner is Giuseppe Acqua, and the head chef is Chef Alessio Minucci. They are both from Venice and Rome, respectively, and have actually only been open for about 6 weeks now. And a lot of times, you think, they're still working out the kinks, but they've got it down, and they really, I think, are just going to keep sailing on from here because they want to play movies, Sophia Loren movies, and be playing Bocelli concerts while you're eating, and they can seat about 80 to 90 people. So to me, that would just kind of brings it to the next level because, short of seeing, but I saw Bocelli about a year ago, and he's just amazing. And, and anytime I cook Italian food, that's who I put on. So I can't wait until they bring that to life.
Oh, that'll be great. Now, are these guys new on the Sarasota scene, or have they been around for a while?
They're definitely new. Like I said, they've probably only been around for about 6 weeks, and they've been in the country for about 7 months.
Oh, okay. So they're not only new to Sarasota, they're new to the U.S.
Yes, which makes it, I love going there to practice my Italian.
Oh, wow. This is the real thing. Yeah, this is really authentic. All right, so talk to me about it. It sounds like a large place. When I walk in, what is the vibe? What does the place feel like and look like? It's
kind of an open seating plan, which reminds you more of like a pizzeria style, but then they actually have some areas of the restaurant that there's only 2 or 3 tables in. So even though it's open, it still has a very intimate feeling about it. But it's pretty much one open room. Whenever you walk into any restaurant in Italy, they the first thing they do is pretty much fall all over you to make sure you've got everything that you need, and that's pretty much the from the second you walk in the door, that's the feeling that you get, and you feel like you're at home.
So service is big here.
Oh, huge.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right, yeah. And Chef Alessio, he comes out. They give you more food than you order. They give you appetizers you didn't order just to try them. They bring you, chocolate liqueur shots. And because it's so good and you finish it so fast, they bring you even more and that you didn't even order. And they are just over the top with the hospitality. The food is so good. And, I dare say this is probably the best pork shank that I have ever had.
All right, well, let's get into the food. You sit down. And assuming that I'm still hungry after all the free food that they've lavished upon me, and I'm looking at the menu, is there an appetizer that you recommend?
The meat and cheese platter, which actually had an onion relish, and it was, all imported meats and cheeses from Italy. And just to give you some backdrop, I was actually dining with my girlfriend to celebrate her birthday, and we had actually been to Italy and traveled together in Italy on a sailboat, actually, on her uncle's sailboat for 3 days before I went off on my own in the country. And we had that same meat and cheese platter everywhere because that's just a staple of Italy. So when we saw that on the menu, that was kind of like one of our true tests. Like, okay, well, let's see how good these, meats and cheeses don't sound like they're very good, but when you've sampled Culatello and it's aged 40 months and you see the caves and you see everything that goes into the making of these, you really get a finer appreciation, I think, for, something as simple as a cured meat.
So we get the meat and cheese platter, share it among the table, and then we start looking at main dishes. You mentioned the pork shank. Is that what you recommend?
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely amazing. It was, the flavor took me right back to Tuscany. And I love Tuscan food because it's simple, it's light, there's some sauce involved, but it's not super heavy. I know, if you go over to France, the French sauces, I think, tend to be a little on the heavier side. But, the Italians like it simple. They take the best ingredients and they cook it forever. And that's essentially what they've done here. Number one, the pork shank was just so huge. Plus, I had fun even just saying what the name of it was, because everything on the menu is in Italian. So I was able to say, I like the stinco al forno.
The stinco al forno.
Yes, which is the pork shank.
Interesting.
I think one of the challenges right now is that some people come into the restaurant and they don't realize how authentic it is. And they're looking for things like chicken parmesan and things like that. And that's what a lot of Americans think Italian food is.
Right, unlimited breadsticks, right?
Right, exactly.
That's got to be a challenge when you are a restaurant doing authentic cuisine. And people have had the Americanized version of it. Right,
and when they're importing pork cheek and, things that we don't see in our Italian restaurants typically, I think there's probably a little process of education, quite honestly.
Right.
But if you read the reviews, they're outstanding. I'm just hoping there are enough people that really appreciate the finer, authentic Italian cuisines in the city, and I think that they definitely will do very well here.
All right, so let's top it off with the dessert. What do you recommend?
Well, we couldn't decide. One thing that's great about the usual places, they are very accommodating. If you don't see something on the menu that you like, they will make you anything. They will, accommodate you in any way. They definitely want you to leave very happy. So because we couldn't decide, they actually put like a sampler together. So we were able to try the tiramisu. The cream puff is absolutely to die for. The panna cotta was amazing. They had a beautiful raspberry sauce on it. And then again, they brought the, chocolate liqueur that just put me over the top.
Good secret. So if you just hem and haw enough, and then they'll put together a sampler for you, and then off the menu. Good idea. All right. Great suggestion. Are you ready to play a little game?
I think I am, yes.
Okay, here's how this works. This game is called Out of the Frying Pan. I am going to ask you for a series of rapid-fire recommendations. Just tell me the first thing that comes into your mind. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. I have to imagine that you've got a lot of nice views there in Sarasota. What is the restaurant with the best view?
I would have to say Marina Jack's, which is located in the downtown area. And it sits right on Sarasota Bay, and it is definitely the place to watch the sunset go down. Right on the water, right on a marina. We got big boats coming in and out. It's beautiful.
All right, you mentioned the Peruvian food.
Yes.
And I heard you slip in there that you had a favorite Peruvian restaurant. What is it?
My favorite Peruvian restaurant is Selva Grill, which is also in the Main Street area, and they have a great happy hour. The drinks are absolutely to die for. They have great concoctions. They mix things, cucumber martinis, and
I love cucumber in a drink.
Oh, they're the best, aren't they?
Oh, there's nothing better in a cocktail on a hot day than cucumber.
That's right. And going back to their happy hour, they have I think they call it 5 for $5. So basically from 5 to 7, they have, $5 martinis, $5 appetizers, and you will be so full when by the time 7 o'clock comes, you won't need to eat dinner there, but the food is outstanding.
All right, sounds good. Obviously, I've got to ask you about seafood. What is your favorite place to get seafood?
I would almost have to say that I have to split this into two categories. One for the more formal seafood, which would be the crab and fin, which is on St. Armand Circle, and very kind of eclectic seafood, very wonderful atmosphere, sidewalk cafe kind of place, as well as indoor seating, piano playing, warm breeze flowing. You really can't go wrong. And then if you want to just put your sandals on and your shorts and head to the beach, there's no better place than Sharky's on the pier, which is down in, it's actually in Venice, which is still Sarasota County. But it's literally right on the beach, and they've got the best rum runners in the entire world. And the seafood is very, I would say, Florida-style seafood. Everything from, broiled, fried, seafood. And then because they have the pier there, I actually saw them catch a 500-pound shark after dinner one night.
500 pounds?
Yes. And the beauty about Sharky's, too, is they also have live music. So there's, dinner and dancing, and then, fishing if you want. It's all there.
500 pounds sounds like a big shark to me. That sounds like I think we need a bigger boat kind of shark to me.
Well, here's the really scary part. They actually caught that off the end of the pier.
Whew. Jeez.
Yeah, and the crazy part was I was just in that water a week before on my wave runner and had been swimming. So that was, and actually, interesting story. These guys are for hire on the internet, and if you want to catch a shark, you hire them, and they drop a meat roast, literally a beef roast, off the end of the pier, and get your shark, and then they bring, they put it up on shore, measure it, get the pictures, and then... I
smell a reality TV show coming.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's nuts. Wow. Oh, that's awesome. All right, let me ask you about one other type of seafood then, and that's sushi. Do you have a favorite sushi restaurant?
I do. Pacific Rim is absolutely to die for. They have so many creative combinations of sushi, and it's the kind of the fresh, urban, young, hip place to be. Typically, that's the go-to place in all of Sarasota.
All right, very cool. You survived out of the frying pan. Congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah. So the restaurant is called The Usual Place. People can find it at 2157 Siesta Drive in Sarasota. They can also go online and check it out at theusualplacerestaurant.com. And Laura from Destination Cuisine, what about you? If people want to check out the website or follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Sure. They can find the website at, of course, www.destinationcuisine.com, and that's cuisine, Cuisine. And we are also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at DESTcuisine, and we're also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Laura Raymond.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot about Sarasota. I had no idea that there was that much going on there.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Seth. And again, Sarasota is a phenomenal culinary delight, so I hope everybody can come here.
All right. My name is Seth Ressler. This is the Fine Dining Podcast. Couple of show notes before we go. First of all, we've got Taste Trekkers coming up. That is the nation's first food tourism conference happening this fall in Providence, Rhode Island. You can find out more about it at tastetrekkers.com. You can find links to any of the things that Laura and I talked about in this episode on the website at mysterymeat.org/podcast. While you're there, you can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes or whatever else you want, whether it's TuneIn, whether it's Stitcher Radio. You can also follow us on Facebook or on Twitter. We are mystery_meat. And if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to come on, maybe you're a food blogger, maybe you're a food tour organizer, you're a chef, whatever it is, you want to tell us about the culinary scene in your city, click on the Contact Us link and send us an email. We would love to have you come on. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
This has been Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. You can find links to the websites mentioned in this episode at mysterymeat.org/podcast. Thank you for listening.